Hello, this is Addis News. I'm Solomon Danye. Thanks for joining me. TPLF's most infamous old guard, Sabahat Nagga, has finally been arrested, says the National Defense Forces. Sabahat has been a warmonger, inciting the youth to oust the Abiy government by marching all the way to Arat Kilo. NDF's Deployment Department head, Brigadier General Tesfaye Ayalew, told the Ethiopian News Agency that Sabahat was arrested together with his special force bodyguards while in hiding in one of the bushes. Sabahat Nagga was the ringleader in TPLF's anti-Ethiopia approach while holding the reins until early 1980s when Meles Zenawi succeeded him. Among those arrested with Sabahat are Lieutenant Colonel Atsadu Rich, wife of Sabahat, Colonel Kinfet Adessa, an aide in anti-Ethiopia operations, and Asseged Gebra Christos, who travelled to Mekelle to join the TPLF's destructive campaign against the Northern Command. Alganesh Meles, wife of the late Hayelo Maria, who returned from the US to aid in the TPLF's move to reclaim federal power in Addis Ababa, is also found dead, falling in a gorge while trying to escape. The Defense Deployment Head further disclosed that Amdamaram Tasama, former head of the Complaints Hearing Bureau in the state of Tigray, and Commander Berhe Girma, logistics head of the Tigray Special Forces, have also been placed under custody. South Sudanese President Salva Kiir on Thursday has called on the Sudanese government to reach a negotiated settlement to the border issues with Ethiopia. President Kiir received Aldin Kabashi, a member of the Sovereign Council, and Omugama Aldin, the acting foreign minister, who briefed him about the recent issue with Ethiopia and the peace implementation process. President Salva Kiir Mayardit urged Sudan's Sovereign Council to resolve their issues with Ethiopia peacefully through diplomacy and dialogue, reads a statement issued by the South Sudanese Presidential Media Service after the meeting. Kiir said he doesn't want any more war in the region and urged the two countries to resolve their issues in a peaceful manner, further said the statement. A command post drone from the Federal Police, the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, and the Tigray Provisional Administration's Mekelle wing begin strengthening and maintaining the peace and security in Mekelle city. The command post has undertaken various discussions with the city police members on outstanding tasks to be conducted in the city. Kasan Chane has more on the story.
The Tigray State Interim Administration has lauded federal government support on rehabilitation, relief, emergency and budget supply so far. Similarly, the federal government has been exerting efforts to restore normalcy of Tigray region, particularly in the areas of humanitarian assistance, recovery, rehabilitation, budget and maintaining peace and security. In response to this, the Interim Administration of the city, along with the command post drawn from the Federal Police and the Ethiopian National Defense Forces, held discussions to speed up and strengthen the peace and security issues in Mekelle.
From today onwards, the interim administration of the city, along with the command post drawn from the Federal Police and the Ethiopian National Defense Forces within the new administration, should start to undertake various efforts using the time, the potential, the resource and the human capital we have. The community needs peace, security and accomplish its daily activities. More than ever, the community knows you. When the people see you on duty, they feel proud. We have also been trying to listen to their heartbeats. There is no need to confront these peace-loving people with machine guns.
Participants for their part also urged the command post to resolve problems by working with the residents and along with the concerned bodies in the region.
As Ethiopia presses ahead with reforms, the argument for and against constitutional amendment persists to this day. While some say the constitution ratified in 1995 could be amended based on Articles 104 and 5, a legal expert approached by TV nevertheless disagrees with this, saying the constitution is one of the most reached in the world. The expert suggested setting a new playing field than going to the predictable amendment process. The Ethiopian constitution, under Article 104 and 5, sets forth amending clauses for formal constitutional change that set procedures to be observed in the process of constitutional amendments, both initiation and approval. Emmanuel Joge reports.
The Ethiopian constitution has been a source of endless debate and deliberation since its introduction back in 1995. A study published by Afrobarometer, a Pan-African and partisan survey research network operating in Africa, shows that constitutional amendments are favored by most Ethiopians. Also concerning amendment issues, many claim that Ethiopian constitution is one of the most rigid constitutions in the world. Legal expert Theodros Getachew agrees with this claim and said, let alone amending, initiating is very rigorous and difficult task.
Those people who are saying the Ethiopian constitution is rigid to amend, they have some kind of truth. They have some kind of truth. Not only the amendment. Starting from the initiation of the amendment, it's really rigid, we can say. Of course, a constitution cannot be amended easily. That's a global practice, not only in Ethiopia. But the Ethiopian case scenario is a little bit somehow tight. For example, if someone wants to initiate, not only amend, but to initiate the amendment, to initiate the proposal even, you have to secure 2/3 vote of the House of People's Representatives, according to 104 of the FDR Constitution. Or you should optionally you should secure 2/3 vote of the House of Federation, or 1/3 of the state councils, all the state councils.
He added that the procedural requirements are very rigid to the extent of making the constitution impossible to amend.
When we come to the amendment procedure, we have two kinds of procedures. According to the 1987 FDR Constitution. One is the amendment procedure which have been designed for the Chapter 3 of the Constitution. This Chapter 3 of the Constitution is stating about fundamental human and democratic rights. So to amend that Chapter 3, it's almost impossible. Those procedures we have already put it in the Constitution are almost makes it impossible, because you have to secure majority vote in all state members of the Federation. You have to secure 2/3 vote of the House of People's Representatives, that is a lawmaker. Generally, we can agree that the Ethiopian constitution is one of the rigid constitution in the world, not to amend also, but to initiate the proposal also.
Theodros suggested setting a new playing field that can lead to a new draft constitution in collaboration with all stakes rather than starting over the amendment procedure.
I prefer there should be a very high level of political commitment from all sides. So instead of playing with this kind of very rigid constitutional amendment, so it's better for all the political parties come together and design some kind of a new playing area, making a new platform that may amount making of a new constitution even. If you lack that kind of political commitment, it's better to think of making a new constitution, designing a new constitution by consulting all the concerned bodies and the people of Ethiopia.
The FDR constitution encompasses a constitutional provision that spells out how the constitution can be amended. However, there has not yet been a single formal constitutional amendment. There have been instances of actual but unwritten constitutional changes in the course of application that have been occurring in Ethiopia, for which formal constitutional amendment cannot account for.
አሲናበል አሲናገናዬ እዮሃ አሲናበል እዮሃ አሲናገናዬ አሲናበል በገና ጨዋታ እዮሃ አሲናበል እዮሃ አሲናገናዬ አሲናበል ላይ ቆጡም ጌታ እዮሃ አሲናበል እዮሃ አሲናገናዬ አሲናበል በገና ጨዋታ አሲናበል በገና ጨዋታ አሲናበል በገና ጨዋታ
This is Addis News Hour. Some contesting political parties approached by ETV disclosed that they are preparing to come up with a better policy alternatives during the upcoming national election slated early June this year. Talking to ETV, the Ethiopian Social Democratic Party, the National Movement of Amhara, and the Ogaden National Liberation Front stated that they have been preparing on the basis of electoral code of ethics. Jerusalem Bazaar tells us more.
After postponing the election scheduled for August 2020 due to the coronavirus pandemic, the National Electoral Board of Ethiopia has decided to hold the 6th general elections on June 5, 2021. The Ethiopian Social Democratic Party, National Movement of the Amhara, and the Ogaden National Liberation Front are among those preparing to compete in the election. They told to ETV that they have been preparing to provide better policy alternatives for the Ethiopian people.
We have been revising the contents of our political manifesto so as to make it more appealing to voters and help provide better policy alternatives. We have been also trying to promote our alternatives and create awareness for the public. We are ready to challenge the ruling party during electoral media debates.
We have been engaged in promoting our policies and programs and the overall concepts of our party to the people. We have also organized the administrational structure at different levels. We will continue working aggressively to become the major contender during the polls slated for June this year.
We have organized our administrational structure at district, zonal and regional levels. Our political manifesto will be released and disseminated in a few weeks of time. We are trying to create awarenesses about our party to the public.
The parties called upon other states to abide by the National Electoral Code of Ethics.
There is no reason why any one of our party members violates the Electoral Code of Conduct. We've always been fighting for democracy on the basis of Electoral Code of Ethics as a legally established entity for the past 27 plus years.
These parties also urged the government to ensure human and democratic rights in all parts of the country so as to lay the ground for a fair and inclusive national election come June 2021.
First place, we have to ensure the right to movement, the right to life, the security of person and liberty in all parts of our country, because we believe these are the basics from which all our rights emanate. We have to have a full grasp of the situation in our country on the ground, and we have to also participate to address such problems in a responsible manner.
According to the board, the tentative date doesn't include the election in Tigray state. The date for elections in Tigray will be announced in the future.
The Ethiopian Broadcast Authority says some foreign media outlets misguided and deliberately biased reports on the law enforcement operation in Tigray has set a bad precedent. Director General of the authority, Getachew Dingu, told ETV that the fact that foreign media outlets largely remained mute in the aftermath of Mekele's fall to the federal troops is indicative of the fact that these outlets are only interested in magnifying conflict. Goshmalsa reports.
Following the assault on federal troops stationed in Mekelle, the federal government has undertaken a law enforcement operation against the TPLF. However, the operation was given a slanted and deliberately distorted image by some foreign media outlets.
In northern Ethiopia threatens to tip that country into civil war.
But first, fighting between Ethiopia's military and the heavily armed Tigray region has escalated.
Why did the Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed misjudge this situation?
The media should provide the people with the...
Talking to ETV English, Getachew Dinkou, Director General of the Ethiopian Broadcast Authority, said some foreign media failed to report accurate and verified information to the world.
What we witnessed during the reporting of some foreign media, not all, some of them tried to report responsibly, did their journalistic job well, while others failed to do their failed to discharge their journalistic responsibilities well. So, as you mentioned earlier, the reporters tended to be very biased, one-sided information, unfounded, unsupported information very commonly.
Some of these media outlets went to the extent of telling the world that the federal government has launched war against Tigray and that there is wide ethnic profiling of Tigrayans all over Ethiopia.
They described the war as civil war. That was not the case at all. It was a law enforcement operation against some aggressors, but from the headlines to the details of the stories, they wanted to suggest that it was a civil war and also ethnic conflicts between the ethnic Tigray and Amharans, which was not again the case. So sort of generalizations here and there.
Although the fighting in Tigray caught the attention of foreign media outlets, the rehabilitation and post-conflict reconstruction has received little, if any, coverage by these media outlets. The Director General reflected on why that was the case.
It indicates that they are more interested in the conflicts. Not all of them, but there's some media outlets and individual reporters because the conflicts seem to sell better than peace and stability, reconstruction stories. So, when we didn't have telecommunication and electricity, they were reporting, and they were taking things beyond extent and saying that this number of civilians are going to suffer and going to be affected because of lack of food, and there is going to be crisis, all kinds of negative predictions. But when that was not the case, and then when stability was restored, the number of reports coming out of these media outlets dwindled. It decreased significantly. Why? Because, as I said earlier, they seem to be interested more in our conflicts.
The authorities said it has engaged some foreign and locally hired journalists to follow journalistic principle.
What my authority is doing, we're engaging the journalists, professionally engaging them, challenging them, whether their reports could be verified and what their... Normally, we don't ask for sources of information, but we demand them to make sure that their stories are correct and their claims are right.
Every foreign media should respect the laws of the land and terms and conditions stated in their contractual agreement with the authority.